The Tusculum Pioneers rolling into the postseason after a loss to the Wingate Bulldogs in the regular season finale would get the Wingate Bulldogs to open the Pilot Fly J South Atlantic Conference quarterfinals at home as the number 3 seed against the 6-seeded Wingate Bulldogs. It was just the start of what you may see in the middle of our screen, a championship run for the Pioneers. Hello everyone, welcome into Pioneer Basketball with Coach Devan Carter. I'm Brian Staten, joined by Devan Carter. You in the regular season at Wingate, we're scratching our head just a little bit. You know, you shoot 44 threes for the contest, and you made 8 of them, and Wingate gets the win, 51-47. Jim Miller had a great moment in our championship setting where you had lost 4 games, or you had held the opposition to 56, 55, 54, and 51 points this year, and had suffered 4 losses. We came out of that, no disrespect, feeling as if it was a fluke, and that was a tough pill to swallow in the regular season finale.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you look at the ability to guard the way that we did, the ability to turn them over the way that we did, the ability to get almost 30 more possessions than they did. I forget the number. I think it might have been 15 or 17 steals, and to lose that ball game was unlike anything I'd ever been a part of. Got great looks, got wide open shots, just didn't make them. And so I think for us it was just a thing of, how do you bounce back from that? Because that was a tough one to swallow. But I think that loss really helped us in the end because I think our kids started to see how much the little things matter. And not only that, that's been our motto all year, is about the details. But I think they saw that if you don't show up and you don't show up locked in, then anybody can beat you in our league especially.
I think what it'll show you, sometimes you have to go through the valley to get to the peak. So the Pioneers would start the conference march. We take a look at highlights. Tusculum versus Wingate. It would be the 3 seed versus the 6 seed. And you come out from the very beginning, Coach, and really set a tone in that opening quarter. Now, again, this is a freshman team in Wingate. They kind of played without some fear, but they also, after you started making some shots, started shaking their head as well.
Yeah, I think that, obviously Wingate's going to be, Coach Hancock just, she's a legend in the league for a reason. They do a great job over there with, player development and finding great talent. And, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. Long, big, athletic. But I think in this game, we were able to get the game moving early. And I thought this was one of the better games for us where we were just shot ready the entire time. We did a great job of delivering the ball in the pocket, and our kids are ready to shoot the basketball. I think from an assist standpoint, Mia Long was about as thorough as she could be as far as delivering the ball to her teammates and creating for others. And we had some people step up and knock down some big shots for us, and we needed it. I mean, it was to get off to a great start in that game was essential for us.
Points in transition, we didn't have a whole lot of that at Wingate, but you get some turnovers at midcourt. Aaliyah Miller stepping up big in the contest. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But what you do when you have the outside shot falling in, you've got Marta Rodriguez coming in, playing, and that was a big moment, I think, in the first half as well for her. Coming off the bench, Mia Long was able to drive and penetrate, and then Marta Rodriguez is able to score in and kind of change some things, change some momentum with our points in the paint.
Yeah, Marta came in, gave us great minutes. I mean, our backup point guard's been out for about a week and a half, sick, and Marta stepped in, gave us great minutes. I mean, she was really good for us. Did a good job of getting us in sets and getting people where they belonged, and then was able to get out in transition for us. And so obviously team's always better when you get contributions, 1 through 11, and Marta was big for us in that situation. And then I think one of the other things she was able to do was she was able to defend for us and keep Hannah Clark in check.
All right, so the first half, the Pioneers outscored Wingate 16-4 in the second quarter and had the halftime lead. They start the third quarter. Wingate comes out, hits a couple of shots, but then Pioneers, Jayla Arnwine, you see Casey Johnson hit some threes. The 3 is really falling in this game. Leah Miller hitting a baseline 3. Everybody is going for 3, and this third quarter was huge. After you kind of gave up an early run, you really responded, outscored them 27-18.
Yeah, I think that, you look at Marta Rodriguez again, you even look at these last 2 clips, she's getting her teammates open and being selfless, just on the backside and just, getting teammates open. getting us in offense. And, for us, coming out, knocking down shots is big. I think if we're knocking down shots, we're one of the toughest outs around because defensively, I think we're good enough to where, we can do a solid job on teams, but when we're scoring the ball, it makes it that much better for us because we're able to get into our press a lot more. So, just all-around effort. Kids really, really played, and I was really glad and excited that we could close out our homestand at Pioneer Arena with a W.
What a difference a day makes, really, a day. Pioneers were unbeaten on Wednesday on the year. Saturday's a little bit of a different story. That Saturday at Wingate, again, you took 44 threes, you made 8. In this game, you hit 14 three-pointers, set a conference tournament record for a game, and we'll have more on that coming up. You avenged that 51-47 loss by putting up 82 points in the game. You win 82-40 against Wingate. Most lopsided win in the series, in a long series. Yeah. The lowest points scored by an opponent in the series of 40 by the Bulldogs. They really labored. They did shoot well, 43%. The thing was you turned them over. You were able to get after it. You got some second chance opportunities. You got some rebounds. Limited their second chance opportunities. Talia Jeter, the defensive player of the year, was not much of a factor because she was in some foul trouble. Troutman didn't have the type of game she did. You really limited her. Plus, you're knocking down threes. Yeah. 14 three-pointers in the contest. Aaliyah Miller leads with 15. Maya Belton, we saw late in that highlight package, knocking down open threes. Mia Long knocking down threes. Jayla Arnwine, one of the best three-point shooting seasons for her after an extremely slow start, adding 13 points. Casey Johnson had 11 and 7 boards. Maddie Sutton just missing her 9th double-double of the year. Everything worked for you on Wednesday against Wingate.
Yeah. It was fun to watch. I think that the girls really came out and were just locked in from the get-go. I think, they didn't take Saturday well.
Right.
Our conversation in the locker room Saturday at Wingate, was very short because, I could look on their faces and tell that it stung, that it hurt. And, that's big. That's important. And as a coach, you always want your players to flat out care, and they do. And they did, and they responded. We had a great week of practice leading up to, the third matchup with Wingate. Energy was through the roof. That Monday, they were electric in practice. And Tuesday, they were locked in. We shortened it a little bit. They just had a focus about them. And so for us to come out and perform that way, I think it was big because it showed our kids, that there's still some more business to get to. And I think that their mindset going into the conference tournament was just that, just pure focus.
Well, there's some things that would say survive and advance. The Pioneers were just locked in and advanced. So the 3-seed advances. The 2-seed also advances. Carson Newman demolishing Lenore Ryan in the game by putting up 105 points in their contest. So here comes Tusculum and Carson Newman meeting for the third time of the season. And it comes in a neutral site in a semifinal. The Pioneers are back in a semifinal for the first time since 2013 as the number 3 seed. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up here in just a moment. But it's the third game, and a lot of coaches will say, the third meeting, we could have said that about Wingate. There's not a whole lot you can hide. There's not a whole lot here. There's not a whole lot there. But actually, the game pretty much followed the same script as the way the 2 regular season meetings met.
Yeah. All I heard going into that matchup was it's tough to beat a team 3 times. You can't beat a team 3 times. The dude at Dunkin' Donuts told me the same thing. And then because he was giving negative energy, I went to Catalyst, and the lady at the cashier told me the same thing. So, I think for our kids, obviously that's a rival game. It's a big rival game. And, you look at some of their players, they're from around this area. Weichels is obviously from Greenville, and our kids are always just, they're amped up for that matchup. And so for the first time in a long time here, we play Carson Newman, in the conference tournament, neutral court, anything goes. They're coming off 105 points. They're one of the most, high-octane offenses in the country. You can't stop them, but you got to hope to contain them. And so it was a big matchup for us, and our kids are really stoked and excited to take part.
Let's roll the highlights. We are at the Pilot Flying J South Atlantic Conference semifinals. We're at Furman University. These highlight packages courtesy of the Carson Newman Athletic Media Department, so thank them for that coverage and the coverage of the tournament as well. So Carson Newman's Kayla Marisites has been phenomenal and on a pretty good run along with Braylon Weichel, but you guys come out in this one, and Carson Newman gets out to a big lead, but you establish the three-point line, which I think was big early.
Definitely big for us. I mean, I feel like, for us, when we're making that shot, a lot of things seem to flow for us, and so the fact that we were able to get out early and knock down some shots, Casey and Maya Belt and J-Lauren Wine was really big for us. You talk about Carson Newman, how good they are offensively. They keep you up at night because they're going to score the ball. You know that they're going to put pressure on you, and if you don't score the ball, it doesn't matter how many stops you get, you're going to get your head beat in. So for us, it was just more so about getting off to a good start and then having the ability to go and put some stops together once we scored the basketball.
Maya Belton comes in off the bench to score equal her season best of 14 points. And again, she was locked in against Wingate with 13 points. I really felt if she had a good final, may even earn a spot on that all-tournament team. But what I think you guys did in this one, just a slight little adjustment against them. We ran them off the three-point line just a little bit. Harley Smith had a big day. They did have a big day in the paint, but it wasn't a big day from beyond three-point territory, which is your big fear.
Absolutely. And we lost Tori Griffin early, in that half, and I think she didn't miss a shot, leave the ball right there. She knocks down another three, and but for us, I think that you run them off the line and you try to contest the three-point line because it seems like everybody on their team shoots above 40%, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so, credit to Coach Mincy. I still hope one day I can pick his brain about some offensive stuff if he will be so gracious. But controlling the three-point line is big for us, and so the fact that we were able to lock in on that in the second half was big, and the fact that we were able to establish the line of our own was big. The thing with Carson Newman that you got to do is obviously you got to contain the three. And then you've got to rebound because Marisites and those girls, they do a great job of offensive rebounding, and I thought we did that.
And you really limited Marisites with that job. And I think this is what was different for you guys when you were locked in defensively. Braylon Weichel in the game, here's the freshman of the year, and I'm going to compliment Mia, and I'm going to compliment her in a few moments as well. Braylon went 1 for 6, and that was a driving layup with 32 seconds to play in the game where she kind of just let it go. She was locked in defensively. Your team around the purple line, by the way, Casey Johnson with her 6th three-pointer of the contest, a new career best for her. But I think it starts with the defensive end and Mia really doing a great job against Weichel.
Oh, yeah. Mia's she's the best I've ever been around defensively. And I'm talking about guy or girl. And when she puts her mind to it, she is going to sit in your pocket, and she's going to put pressure on the ball the entire time. You look at her, I think right now she's leading the nation in active steals as far as, people that are still playing, top 5 in the country in steals. And she's on you. And she takes those matchups personally and going to absolutely positively miss her because when she graduates, Braylon Weichel got 3 more years left in the league. And so we're going to have to find somebody else that can stay in front of that girl because Lord knows she's going to be really, really special. But Mia Long just, we challenged her. We put her on the best player just about every matchup that's a guard. And there hadn't been a time where she hadn't responded.
Pioneer basketball team down 10. And again, if you follow the regular season, the Pioneers trailed double digits in the first half through the third quarter. For the 3rd consecutive time, a Pioneer basketball team that rallies from behind against the Carson Newman Eagles. They hit 5 three-pointers in the first half, so struggled just a little bit there. But in the second half, it was 10 three-pointers that you were able to bury. And we saw a lot of that. And a lot of that was around that purple line. And you felt as if that kind of confused the team. But obviously, it seemed to work out a little bit for you.
Yeah, the purple line was getting us a little bit. We had kids shooting from like they were in Madison Square Garden or something like that. We tell our kids, it's no need to be trigger shot now. You got open shots. You got to step in and take them. Against really good teams, you're not going to get a 3rd or 4th opportunity at a wide open look. And so, our big thing, and, we're numbers based. We are numbers based. And I used to think analytics were for dorks. But, they do carry value. And so we look at the numbers sometimes, and for us, the three ball is important to us, and we've got to be able to go and shoot those open shots because everybody dares us to shoot those shots.
Right.
And so we want to give our kids confidence to step in and make those. We've got kids that are capable. We got kids that can, make plays and everything else. And I want our kids to play as free as possible, and I want them to feel like they have the right and the privilege to make a play.
So the Pioneers knock off Carson Newman 81-73. Again, they get 14 out of Maya Belt, and they get 11 points out of Mia Long. But that's really not the story. The story was she limited Braylon Weichel to just 1 of 6 for the contest. Braylon did get 4 of 5 at the free throw line, but single digits for her, single digits in rebounds for Kayla Marisites. So credit Casey Johnson and Maddie Sutton for what they were able to do inside of the paint. And for the first time since 2013, or at least the last time the Pioneers were at Furman University in the Pilot Flying J South Atlantic Conference Tournament, which they didn't call it that at that point. They're back into a championship setting, taking on Anderson. So the same situation that occurs for you guys, 3 wins against Carson and McCain, you do it, is also now on them, squarely on their shoulders. Could they get 3 wins against a Pioneer team that's now averaging 81.5 points per contest in the postseason after a real struggle, and kind of Anderson doing just enough to survive and advance? They get a 2-point win against LMU, surviving a Kendall Caudle 2-point jumper to tie it in regulation. They rely on a Madison Baggett 3 with 5 seconds to play in regulation in the semifinal against Catawba. They force overtime, do enough, and advance to a championship. So there were some question marks with you being one of the hottest teams and them doing just enough. However, their just enough were 2 really, really good players.
Oh yeah, and I'll be, I say this, and I told Coach JB this. I think that if you go through and look at the year, this year in the SAC, I felt like everybody emulated Coach JB's strategy.
Yes.
And I tell people this all the time, is that I've gone against, coaches at the Division I level and everything else, and, it amazes me sometimes about coaches and adjustments, and that's something that, even myself, you got to work on constantly to be better and to challenge yourself to be better. Coach JB is like he's one of the best that I've ever been around. I told him this, he makes you better because they're going to be prepared, they're going to be tough, they're going to be, X's and O's, they're going to be phenomenal. He's one of the best I've ever seen. And so you're going against an Anderson team that, obviously they've been here before. They've been in the conference championship before. They've won regular season titles before. And for us, it's a new stage, for our program. And so going into that matchup, I knew it was going to be a dogfight. I knew that we were going to have to, get stops. And I knew that we were going to have to, control their 2 best players. And that's a tall task. Baggett, one of the most clutch kids I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Mullenhauer is one of the best players I've ever seen, period. She's an All-American, about to be a 2-time All-American. And, we had our work cut out for us for sure.
And the way the game started, she comes out and she's blistering it. She's 2 for 2. Baggett hits a 3. You've got, we're not scoring. We're not shooting the ball very well to start from the beginning. They've done a good job running us off the 3-point line, I felt. They forced us to kind of go inside. And our kryptonite this year has been going against their post.
Yeah.
They've done a great job in contesting a lot of shots. Mullenhauer just kind of plays free in there, but she does a great job playing without fouling.
Yes.
And gets a lot of deflections. So we got off to a very slow start, and their hot start, and I was concerned.
Yeah, they got off to a great start, and like you said, Mullenhauer got hot early. You look at Taylor Hare, got off to a great start for them as well, and they do a great job of clogging the paint and contesting at the rim. And I thought early on, I wouldn't even say it was jitters. I thought they did a great job of really contesting the rim and protecting the rim. And their length affected us a little bit. And, going into the half, I knew we had paint touches. I knew we had some open looks that we had knocked down, and I thought that we were going to get those same looks in the second half. And I just encouraged our kids to take them. No need to be trigger shy. But they got off to a great start. Me and Coach JB joked that we might have set basketball back in the first half.
Yes.
Because it was very ugly, it was very sloppy, but it was 2 teams that were defensive minded. And so, you look at it, they had 21 points at halftime. And any coach that I know would take that. You're like, man, you held them to 21 points in a half. The issue was they held us to 13. So, it was very tough to watch and very frustrating because I felt both teams got great looks, and we just weren't able to capitalize on them.
All right, so the first half was over. And believe me, the radio guy was really concerned as well.
Yeah.
A team that's averaged 81.5 points through the first 2 games of this postseason, and you had 13 at halftime. Not a lot was going. Not a lot was working. Not a lot was helping us. Our defense, we were doing great defensively. We were turning them over as well. We just weren't scoring off a lot of that. We moved to the second half. We do have some highlights. We'll show you some of it. We don't have the complete highlight package as well. This courtesy of the Sports Information Department here at Tusculum for Dom Donnelly. But into the second half, then all of a sudden things changed. And I thought Brianna Dixon was different. She goes coast to coast a couple of times with some layups, but it was her defensive pressure. But I really believe getting the paint touches for Maddie Sutton to start the second half opened up our entire game.
Yeah, and you talk about Brianna. I mean, I think I truly believe the kid has the ability to be a first-team All-League kid. She's extremely talented, and we got to find a way to continue to put her in spots to make plays. You saw it in the ball game. I mean, couple rebounds. She gets off the rim. She goes coast to coast to the rim. She's getting to the second level, shooting, pull-up jumpers. She knocked down a huge 3.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have been deep if she was in the NBA. But knocked down a huge 3 for us. And then you look at Maddie, obviously. I mean, Maddie Sutton, man, she's a beast on that block. You give her the ball, and it doesn't matter. Most nights she's undersized. Most nights, the other person is bigger, longer, more athletic, and Maddie finds a way to get it on the glass and score it. And usually it turns into an and-one. And she's improved leaps and bounds. Kid came here as a walk-on, tough as nails, battles, competes. The kid is just like everything that you want your program to be about. And so, going into that matchup against a person that's bigger, stronger, more athletic than her, and we're going to her at the end of the game. Like, we're going to her to close the game out, and she delivered.
Pioneers also got great defensive effort again. Casey Johnson had to defend the league's best player. Here's your change. Here's your turning point in the game. Into the third quarter, Molenauer hits a 3, is fouled, makes the 4-point play. Mia Long answers with the 3-pointer to make sure that that's not the momentum they had going into the fourth quarter. But it was also Casey Johnson and Brianna Dixon switching on Molenauer basically the entire second half, frustrating her and not giving her good looks.
Yeah, they both did a great job. And I'll be, going into the second game that we played at Anderson, I thought Casey did a great job. I thought that Molenauer was able to get a lot of looks off on Brianna Dixon. And, Bree is a really good defender. That's why she's in the starting lineup for us right now, is because she's a really good defender. And I thought that, Bree just had a low hand a lot. Her and Molenauer about the same size, and I just felt Bree had a low hand and Molenauer was just shooting over. I thought Brianna Dixon was the absolute key to the ball game for us because she allowed us to, give Casey a breather, and then she allowed us to not only give Casey a breather, but she was able to go in and rebound and give Mia Long a breather when she would get the rebound and push the basketball. So, Mia's not having to blow the ball up the floor the entire time. Bree was able to get the rebound and push it. She was a point guard.
Yeah. She's
recruited as a point guard. She played, point guard at her previous at Walter State. Played point guard in high school. She is a point guard, and we've kind of moved her to that point forward spot. Because of her length and versatility, and no doubt key to the ball game. Maya Belton gave us some good minutes. You look at Jayla Arnwine, who was able to be solid. Mia Long was just an absolute beast on the defensive end. And in that first half, Mia Long kept us in the game.
Yes.
And so for her to go and close it the way that she did, defensively with the tip from behind, couldn't have scripted it better. The way we pressed and do different things, for Mia to get that last tip behind that sealed the ball game, it's like, it was amazing. It was amazing to watch.
She had 8 points in the first half of the 13. And then she also, by the way, Madison Baggett couldn't be that clutch player because she, for the second consecutive game, Mia Long allowed 2 field goals to the person that she was held primarily to defend. Baggett went 1 for 4 in the contest and got that very early in the game. Mia also allowed her offensive game to go and flourish. She finished with 22 points in the game. Hey, there's so many great moments in the contest. Bree Dixon hitting that three-pointer, Mia hitting the three to answer, but I do believe it was the defensive end completely for your team. We can talk a lot about scoring and the 48 points you put up into the second half, which was remarkable after a 13-point first half. Trailing by 10 in the first half. Going on a 19-0 run to start that fourth quarter and get the lead for the first time in the fourth quarter after a big shot. It was all defense, and it was about limiting their best players. And Mia Long, for a second consecutive game, she's going to be the MVP of the tournament, and there is a reason why. She shut down two of the very best in our league.
Man, I mean, she took them challenges on, and she attacked them. She really did a great job of not just guarding hers, but she was still out communicating and being a team defender. And you look at some of the deflections she got when she was off the ball. You look at some of the deflections she got from behind with back pressure. It's just unbelievable to think that this girl is a 5'3", 5'4" point guard, and she's an absolute terrorist on the defensive end. She would be the type of kid that if I had to go against all the time, she'd just, frustrate me to wit's end. And, credit to her, man. I mean, she's overcome a lot. Tournament MVP, locking down the two other team's best players. That's what a senior guard, senior leader does. And I couldn't be more proud of her, man. I mean, she deserved it and then some. You look at her and Casey Johnson in this tournament, and they were just flat out special.
Yeah. There's no other word to say.
Yep, special.
Those two were the special, and those were the special moment. The reason the Pioneers had now 3 tournament championships, they rally from behind, outscoring Anderson 22-16 in the third, 26-12 in the fourth. Very similar script to how they were able to come back from Carson Newman and what they did in the second half, knocking down threes. They only had 6 3-pointers in this one, and just to kind of put the kibosh, the Pioneers, the best 3-point shooting makes in a conference tournament setting as well. They had established that back-to-back days with the most threes in a game, of 14 against Wingate, then 15 against Carson Newman, establishing that. They had 6 3-pointers in the game against Anderson. They had 4 in the second half. And again, it wasn't about the threes that they had made, but it was those threes that really opened up, that Maddie Sutton opened up late in that contest. Mia Long showing her range. And the third tournament championship, and I remember the second, it was led by a 4'11" point guard, Jasmine Gunn. She was known as a penetrator and a finisher, but in that particular championship in 2011, she was a 3-point shooter.
Wow.
She was taken back behind the line. She wasn't known as a 3-point shooter. As a matter of fact, she was a horrible shooter.
Yeah.
She was a great finisher.
Yeah.
And look at that, a little bit of Mia Long. And again, Mia's 3 that kind of allowed us to kind of get going to start that fourth quarter. Very reminiscent and very, very similar in the way the Pioneers' 2 last tournament championship have come from their point guard. A shutdown defender and then getting the perimeter shot to go in the contest. I'm reminiscing on my own here for that one. Pioneers get the win against Anderson, 61-49. They win their 3rd tournament championship, and in doing so, the celebration goes on. They get a chance to cut the nets down. Maybe we should practice that, the next time.
Yeah, you can't have a freshman lead.
Yeah, we struggled. We struggled a little bit there with that one, but it was still fun. To see them celebrate, nice little nugget that Jim Miller dug up as well. The 3rd seed now has 9 tournament championships since 1991. Now, the 1 seed has done a pretty decent job in that with 14 championships, but the 3 seed now with 9 tournament championships. A Pioneer team that gets that 3rd seeded championship for the 9th time in the tournament. Get a chance to see you go up. A big day for the Carter family on Saturday, getting a chance to cut some nets down.
Man, it was unbelievable. It's one of those things that man, God is good, man. We go and obviously we cut down the nets here, and then I got to drive about 35, 40 minutes down the road to Wofford to watch my brother and Nick Pasqua and Southern Wesleyan do the same thing. And with everything that's happened with the family, losing my dad in September, we said, our dad was a championship dude, and the ring that I wear is one of my dad's state championship rings, and my brother wears another state championship ring that my dad wore. And so yesterday, obviously, when we won our championship, I had on my dad's state championship ring, and when my brother when they won their championship, he had on my dad's one of his other state championship rings. And so we, texted back and forth, and Darius sent me a text and he said, Dad was a championship man. He said, today is our turn to join him and continue the legacy that he built. And a little even smaller nugget that's either, makes it even more, puts it into more perspective. Two of my dad's former players and assistants are coaching in the state title game in Virginia as well. And so his legacy definitely is living on, man. And it was just unbelievable the fact that my mom was able to watch us, cut down the nets and then go down the road and watch my brother do the same thing. It was absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and he definitely blessed our family this weekend. It was phenomenal.
It was a great win for the entire Carter family, the entire Tusculum University athletic department as well. The Pioneers get the tournament championship. They knock off Anderson 61-49. They were in the net. We got the trophy that was here. It's the third tournament championship in school history, and the Pioneers do get the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all tournament. We'll talk about all conference, and that's when we come back after this. A championship winning weekend. This is Pioneer Basketball with Coach Devan Carter.
So much of life these days is rushing around from one place to another. Sometimes you just want to enjoy the journey on the way to the destination. And part of what makes it a little more enjoyable is an appreciation for the folks who help you get there. At Ingalls, we know that the people who send you on your way are the same ones who keep you coming back.
I think you should take it for a spin. Are you serious?
Ingalls, all the ingredients for family.
We are in.
We welcome you back into Pioneer Basketball with Coach Devan Carter. The Pioneers are tournament champions, means they also get the automatic bid to the NCAA Southeast Regional. They will be the number 4 seed, jumping from number 7 to number 4. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. But first, the tournament championship also means we've got some hardware to hand out and a couple of well-deserved ladies. We talked about them a lot. We'll start with Casey Johnson, establishing 6 3-pointers against Carson Newman. That's a new career best for her. She continued to score the basketball, but I think what was more impressive, you said, all right, you got to take Marisites, you got to take Mullenauer, and you got to do the job and shut them down, because she did. It's a big part of why you're tournament champion.
For sure. I mean, I don't know if there's a better story in basketball. Casey Johnson, kid, comes on the floor every night. She competes for us. Now she's playing for her son, and she's done a heck of a job raising him. The dude is like a rock star in our practices, and he emulates everything. He's, if I'm down clapping, he's down clapping. He now knows how to blow the whistle. He knows how to pick people up when they fall and take a charge. He does the fist pound all the time, and so he's a stud. But she comes in, and you look at the adversity she's been through, man, and there's not just that, but there's just other things that she's been through, and that kid overcomes them every single time. You look at her during the summertime, she's running around campus, getting in shape, she's doing all that stuff. She's in the weight room, just lifting on her own. Just a kid that works extremely hard. And she's one of those kids that makes you earn your check. I mean, she's going to text you and say, hey, Coach, can we get up shots? And, she works my GAs to death, because she wants to be the best version of herself. And couldn't be more proud of her, man. I mean, what a way to close out her SAC career with a conference championship, all-tournament team. And we had this conversation her freshman year. Her freshman year, she kind of went back and forth as to whether she wanted to play basketball. And I told her if she rides this thing out, she was going to do something that hadn't been done in a long time, and she was going to have the opportunity to do something and be the first in her family to do something. She wins a championship. She's getting ready to have her master's degree.
Right.
And so not only is she the first in her family to graduate, she's going to be the first in her family with a master's degree. And what an example she's going to set for her child. I mean, I look at my family. My dad was the first one in his family to get a degree, and a master's degree, and a doctorate degree. And now me and my brother both have master's degree. They say the apple don't fall too far from the tree, and so Casey's going to have the opportunity to be that for her family as well, and I think that's awesome.
Casey Johnson, member of the all-tournament team, and then your tournament MVP. It was really a toss-up because Casey Johnson could have been that had the vote swayed just based on the defensive numbers. But then if you factor the defensive numbers for what Mia Long did, she allowed 2 field goals in the semifinal against the person she was primarily responsible for defending. Plus, she scored in the championship game and scored a bunch, 22 points in that one. Well-deserved, Mia Long earning the tournament MVP.
Yeah, Mia Long, man, she's what a kid. I don't think I've ever coached anybody like Mia Long. Don't know that I ever will.
Yeah.
She's a great kid. Mia Long's little story. Mia Long's mama told me that when we got Mia, she said, "Coach, I hear you. You say you're tough. You say you this." She said, "Well, you about to meet your match now." And she was right. Shout out to Miss Katrina. But Mia's she's been awesome for us, man. I mean, she's a kid that has matured so much. I think the one word that I would use to describe her this year, some people say she's, a great defensive player. She's a pest. She's a terrorizer on the defensive end. But I think maturity is the one word I would use to describe her this year. I mean, you look down the stretch when we're trying to close the game against Anderson, and she's not running a set until everybody's where they need to be, and she's out directing them on the floor, and Brianna Dixon's lost, and she's like, "Bree, you're over here," and she's protecting the ball and getting everybody where they need to be. And then, I mean, like you said, to hold 2 elite guards to 2 field goals in 2 games, I mean, that was absolutely spectacular. And the one thing about Mia is when you challenge her, she rises to the occasion. You got to challenge her. Sometimes you got to let her know what the stakes are. Sometimes you got to let her know, what's at hand. And she'll be like, "All right, here we go." And, she's that type of kid where, she accepts challenges. She accepts coaching. I don't think I've been tougher on anybody in our program than Sydney Wilson, Casey Johnson. Casey and Sydney more so early. They got with the program early. Mia took a little bit. But I've never coached 3 kids as hard as I've coached those 3. And I throw Callie Patterson in that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Callie. But those 3 kids, man, they take coaching and what careers they've had. I mean, their careers have been spectacular. And, you look at them, they're 3 of the best to ever come through the program.
This is a Mia Long who nearly had a triple-double in the semifinal, even though she didn't necessarily have the scoring numbers. But talk about 7 rebounds, I think 6 assists, and in the final had 22 points, 4 steals, along with Bree Dixon. She earned tournament MVP. And then the all-conference honors this year, the honorable mention, I'll just mention because we've already talked about the same 2 kids. But congratulations to our honorable mention, this selection to Casey Johnson, well-deserved. She became the 17th player in school history to go for over 1,000 points in her career. And again, she follows that up with the tournament championship and an all-tournament selection, shutting down 2 of the very best in our league, Kayla Marisites and also Alexi Mullenhauer defensively. And then earning a first-team all-conference selection was Mia Long, and well-deserved there as well, leading the team #1 in steals. And I really felt as if she could be the defensive player of the year. They went to Leah Jeter in this situation because the way she protected the rim couldn't go wrong there either. But Mia Long changing a game so much with her steals per contest. Second #1 in Division II all year long. First in our league this year. We established a new career record in steals in a season for her, a record that had stood for 30 years. She gets the new single season record this year, did so in the championship game. So her presence out there on the floor earning first team. Going against 2 other first team all-conference guards, mind you, in Braylon Weichel and Madison Baggett in the last 2 games of this season. So congratulations to Mia Long, Casey Johnson. What that means with the tournament championship is that the Pioneers are still dancing. For the first time since 2012, when they earned an at-large bid that year, we're going to the NCAA tournament. We know our opponent. We are the 4 seed. #1 seed is Lander. They get a chance to host in Greenwood, South Carolina. That begins this coming Friday. The #2 seed is North Georgia. They fell to Lander in their championship game of the Peach Belt. The 3 seed Anderson actually moved up, so they'll be the 3 seed. Tusculum moves up from 7. They'll be the 4. Belmont Abbey is the #5 seed. The 6 seed is going to be Carson Newman. The 7 seed is going to be Clayton State. And the 8 seed is going to be Limestone, who upset some teams to win Conference Carolinas. So you see the bracket. Lander's going to play Limestone. That game's going to be a 5 o'clock game Friday. The Tusculum Belmont Abbey game is going to be the final game on Friday at 7:30. It will be Anderson and Carson Newman. Unfortunately, these two teams now have to play for a third time. Two very close games, and they actually start the regional off at high noon this Friday. That'll be followed by number 2 North Georgia against Clayton State. What I see in this bracket is wins against teams in this bracket for your team. And that was the first game of the year. You played Belmont Abbey. It wasn't pretty. We talked about 4 wins that you got or that you lost by when you allowed a limited number of points. It was a low-scoring affair the first time, but you were able to get that win in that low-scoring affair against Belmont Abbey. These two teams have changed drastically now.
Drastically, and you know, that was the first matchup we played without Sydney Wilson.
Right.
Got the word that she couldn't play about 2 hours or 3 hours before the game, and so we played that weekend without her. You know, I think in that matchup, once again, the first half, first game of the year, you know, you're getting all the jitters out, and you're on the road at a neutral court, and we probably set basketball back with our half, you know, and we had a football score at the half, you know, and but you know, Jason Williams, good dude, man, does a great job with his program. You know, they have 2 elite scorers. They have great size. They rebound the ball well. They run their stuff, X and O wise. I mean, they're as good as they come. You know, they just ran through their league this year. I mean, they ran through their league, utterly dominated that league, and you know, so our hands are going to be full. We've got to make sure that, you know, we rebound the basketball. We're going to have to get the game moving a little bit. You know, they do a great job of making you take contested shots, and so our work is going to be cut out for us. You know, a very, very good ball club that we're going to have to go against and try to beat on the road. And a opponent that we've played the last 3-4 years and have had some success against. But now the stage is bigger and better than ever before. And so, you know, obviously we're going to have our work cut out for us, and we're going to take today and recover, and then tomorrow we're going to get started on Belmont Abbey.
Belmont Abbey, Tusculum. It opens the NCAA Southeast Regional. It's a Friday. It's on the road in Greenwood, South Carolina. Encourage your support as well. Lander will have a great shot of the games. I know they do a good job with their video feed as well. And the Pioneer Sports Network will be there. We'll be there for the game. We'll start a little bit early. We'll have some pregame conversations with some of the players and Coach Carter as well. And we'll kind of get the feel of the game. And we've been there at Lander. We've been there before. It's a wonderful facility. Greenwood, a beautiful town. So come in, spend the weekend with the Pioneers. Pioneers win Friday. They'll play at 5 o'clock on Saturday against the 1-4 winner. And then you are in that contest. They'll play the 1-8 winner, and then they'll take a day off, and the finals will be on Monday. So they'll take that Sunday off, and the championship would be Monday. That's how that bracket would play out. Congratulations. We're not done yet. We still have some jobs to do, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's Pioneer coach Devan Carter. Pioneers are tournament champions of the South Atlantic Conference for the first time since 2011. They're in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2012. They are the 4 seed. Join us on Friday for the coverage. For everyone behind the scenes here at the Pioneer Sports Network on this championship winning weekend, I'm Brian Staten with Pioneer coach Devan Carter. Until next time, go Pioneers.